Hello, this is Peter Combs from Bidamount.com and P.O. Combs Asian Art, located here in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And today is September 15th, 2017. And as always, we'll take a look back at last week's eBay auction results. There's some really interesting stuff I'm going to talk about, I think, what we're starting to see on there. And we're going to touch briefly on a couple of things that sold over at Christie's and Sotheby's this week. Their auction results were really mixed. I'm waiting to see the final numbers on all their sales. I haven't had a chance to get into it, but it looks like they had some great successes and they had some really strange flops on their hands. And I'm not quite sure why, but we'll talk about it a little bit, and we're going to take a look at Eden Galleries and see what they've been up to, all right? And let's get started. Here's last week's newsletter. Feel free to go through it before we're going to change it in the next couple hours. We'll put up the new stuff from for this week. And one of the things we're going to start off right out of the box talking about is this bronze right here, this camel bronze. This was maybe one of the great buys of the last 6 months or a year on eBay. There it is. The seller, for some reason, listed it as a Qing Dynasty bronze, and I don't know why. I put it up. I thought everybody would catch it. Maybe not. I don't know. But here it is. This is probably a Western Han bronze, a gilt bronze. Very rare. Scroll weight. As you know, if you don't know much about these, scroll weights were generally made in sets of 4, and they were used to hold down not only scrolls but sometimes games outside, papers, documents, that kind of thing. They were sort of a very necessary accoutrement for the scholar's table, and they were often buried with their owners when they died. This one appears to have been buried, judging by the oxidization and so forth on the surface, and it came from a nice collection. And he had all the information on it, but I think he severely misdated it, which held back the price. It went for $4,100. These are extremely rare, and I think it should. My feeling when I first saw it, I thought it would bring probably around $40,000 to maybe $60,000. And here's another example of one that's been sort of cleaned up a little bit, that Alan Twang had on his site. It was at a Sotheby's sale. It had a $60,000 to $80,000 estimate. These scroll weights are extremely rare, and someone I think got a great buy on that. Okay, we put it in the newsletter. We were hoping somebody would catch it. I hope one of our readers got it. If you're the guy that got it and you get the newsletter, let us know. We'd love to hear. This was something that William over in London, Martindale, had, our friend over in the UK. It's a beautiful metal chin form box, hinged covered box. It comes apart with a nicely done reticulated top. Very unusual shape. Really unusual shape for one of these. There it is. Nice 19th century box. There it is with it's a lid, cover, liner. It's an incense box, I think. He called it possibly a hand warmer. And he got a lot of interest in it early on. I talked to him, and he said he's getting offers right off the bat for it. And he decided that he likes auctions, so he left it up to run the auction, and it brought more than double what his offer had been, which is typical on eBay. If you get an offer for something, as soon as it goes up, most of the time, 95% of the time, you'll get more at the end by letting it run, let it run its course. And then there was this vase. This was an extremely pretty vase that someone had put up. Unfortunately, it had a hole in the bottom, but it was a 24-inch 1830, 1850 Celadon ground famille rose vase with these nice chimeras, little baby dragons here, and a couple of opposing food lions on the neck, and this beautiful shaped rim up above. Here's a detail of the decoration on it, just top quality decoration all the way around. All the way around. Really, really, really good decoration straight across. Look at that beautiful blue monochrome vase they painted onto it. And it did all right. And that hole in the bottom, if you go and look at it, the hole is kind of unattractive, but it can be fixed. And it went for $860, which I think was a very nice buy for a superbly well-done vase of that size. That was a good buy. And then there was this. This was another. There were a number of things on here this week that were misdescribed. This is obviously, for those of you that collect, have been around a little while, you know that this is a Japanese mixed metal plate or trivet. and with Japanese figures. There's lots of gold on it. It appeared to be in excellent condition all the way around, just terrific. There's the mark on the bottom, Meiji period. There's the rest of it, and the guy listed it as bronze vintage Chinese antique, and had it in the Chinese category, which I think hurt it. I think this probably would have brought maybe another $400 or $500 had it been in the right category. Japanese collectors don't often look in the Chinese category, and vice versa. We've also in the past seen some great Chinese things listed as Japanese, and sometimes you can get yourself a nice buy that way. At any rate. And then there was this. This was, we're going to do a few of these. Mark Wahlberg, he sells under the name of arts@sunlink.net, had this very, very nice robe. He had a bunch of robes. He had an 18th century robe last week that brought over 12,000. He had this one. I don't know. He got himself a collection, I think, somebody. And nicely done robe, late 19th, early 20th century, but in beautiful condition all the way around. It appeared to be in excellent condition if I looked at the detail shots of it. Just nice, crisp colors. Look at the collar, hardly anywhere at all. And that's what you want to look for in a robe. The dyes, some of these reds look like they might be synthetic, which is probably the case. Nonetheless, it brought $2,851, which is a good price for that. And then there was this peach bloom. The seller had it listed as Kangxi. It obviously wasn't. I didn't correct it in the listing. But a nice peach bloom, late 18th, early 19th century washer. Here's the detail of the bottom. A nice little iron oxide line there. You can actually see the bubbles in the glaze. You can see how the glaze pooled up white here around the bottom. Has an incised Danhua decorated dragon on it. There's the mark. Obviously not a period Kangxi mark, but it has a mark on it, and that's what some people like, just having the mark. And it brought $2,505. Okay, this seller, or Orlando Shores, had some really neat things up last week. And there was this sweetmeat set. The seller had it as Kangxi. Not convinced, but it certainly appears to be an 18th century sweetmeat set. And complete, which is really nice. And often you see these sets. Those of you who've been around a little bit collecting for a while, you'll find these sets, and like two or three of the plates have been damaged and repaired because the piece, the set comes apart like that. So it's easy to get a piece broken. And the more pieces you have to something, the easier it is to bust them. And but this did quite well nonetheless. It brought $1,926. Which makes me think maybe some buyers didn't think it was Kangxi either, but still a nice old set. All right. They also did those, by the way, in those colors in vases on biscuit in the late 19th century, and they've often gone through auctions as Kangxi, and they're not. They were very good at doing them at that time. Then there was this late 19th, early 20th century Famille Rose vase. Had these nice, rather unusual Receptor handles mounted on the neck. Instead of using chimeras or food lions, they put a Receptor on there. And I love this nice blue, this violet blue they used. And the birds. Notice the birds. When you see these black birds on porcelain, you can generally look to the early 20th century for the period of making. It was a very popular theme back then. And there's the Receptor. Look at the work on that, though. And whoever did this was really good. Really nice quality work all the way around. And it did quite well. It brought $1,461. Not bad at all. And then there was this. This was interesting. This seller had two of these plates. They weren't matching. They weren't identical, but they were obviously, they were the same. They just had slightly different figural landscape scenes in the middle. And these were either, Kangxi or Yongchen period, somewhere in there. Very, very well decorated with underglazed blue and underglazed red, and they highlighted the underglazed red in gold. See if we can find a detail. Let's see, right there. There, yeah. All right. And you can see traces of gilt on the underglazed red. But the red was a very nice, very good color. You see there was a good clear red on there. And there's the back of the plate with this celadon sort of glaze over it. And there's the mark. Sort of typical what you see in some of these 18th century pieces. And I think it was a good buy, $162 for that. And it was in excellent condition. The gilding was still apparent on the red, which is a good sign. And it had no chips or cracks in it. And somebody got a nice buy. I think that was a wise purchase. I hope he bought both of them. And then there was this plate, another plate we found that was described as 19th or 20th century, and we looked at it pretty carefully. And here's the back of it. And I don't agree with the dating on this at all. I think it was probably an 18th century plate, just in very good condition. I don't think it's Kangxi, but 18th century. And very nice quality, very nice white porcelain, excellently done. It was in good condition. And I think it was 11 or 12 inches in diameter. It only went for $228. All right. So that was a good buy for somebody. I hope one of our readers got it. And if you get things on here, let us know what you're getting. We'll get a better idea of what it is you buy. We'll try to find more of them for you. And there was this nice pair of vases on here. These are unusual, highly unusual. These are export vases that seller over in Europe had, Frankie, and these are beautiful and quite unusual. He called them pronk vases. But with these vines of brightly colored berries with a deep underglazed blue. These are probably Kangxi period from what I can see. Here's the mouth of the rim on them, this sort of nice bluish glaze, some fritting, which is common on these. And Egremont Horn had these, and they went for $303. And I think that was a nice buy. If you collect export porcelain, I thought these are terrific. And then there was this scepter, a very nice bamboo and bamboo veneered scepter on wood, I should say. Excellent quality. He had it dated as 18th or 19th century. I think it was probably just you could just call it 19th century by the work, but very good quality all the way around. Notice the way they did the lingbai up here, and the tassel is nicely decorated. And you have this sort of incense burner with fronds coming out of it. Let's take a look at the other end of it. There's the other end of it. And they incised, carved the wood itself, and then overlaid it with different colored bamboo. And there it is. It even came in its own nifty little case. All right, probably bought in China and brought back. As you know, years ago when you bought antiques in China, they used to always put them in, especially in Hong Kong. You always got a really nice box to go with it. And it brought $1,108. They also put fakes in boxes like that, so the boxes don't mean anything. But that's sort of a nice package to get it in that beautiful box. And $1,108 that brought, which I think was a good price, but a very nice object. And then here's another robe. This was a cut velvet or cut silk robe that Mark Wahlberg had, again from this hoard he picked up. Beautiful gilt buttons, and again, condition. The condition on this just seems excellent. Here's the look at the open it up. There's no discoloration. It may be that this was never worn. A lot of robes came back, by the way, from China with missionaries, and often the people collected, especially the women, tended to collect textiles, and we've seen a number of collections from former missionaries. And this one looks like it was put in a box the day it was bought. And oh, well, let's go back. I didn't tell you how much it brought. Hold on a second. It brought $2,850, which I think was a reasonable price for that condition. Silk in good condition is highly desirable. And then there was this. This was, again, Egremont Horn had this. Frankie got this, a nice Kangxi pear-shaped bladder vase, whatever you want to call it. Beautiful color. I love the changes of color on this. And it was fitted onto this perfectly proportioned gilt bronze base. Look at the work on that. Lovely, probably French bronze. There's the interior, and you see this white paste unglaze underneath. Typically it's Kangxi. There's a detail of it. You can see the turnings. Just had a lot going for it. And a lot of people agreed. It brought $3,537. And it wasn't horribly big. I think it was about 7 or 8 inches tall. But just sort of a choice example. And our friend Woolwust down in Rhode Island had this, a nice pair, very pretty pair, Famille June with Famille Rose decoration, but yellow ground, pair of vases. They were about 14 inches tall, early 20th century, early, to Republican period in there, but nice quality all the way around. They get good stuff. Here's the bottom of it. Obviously not chin lung, has a chin lung mark, but that's okay. And there's a detail of it. And these did pretty well. They brought $1,338. But they're very decorative, and they'll look wonderful together in the right room. And again, I'm not picking on Mark, but when he gets good things, I like to share them. This is a very nice robe. Probably looks like almost like a theater robe the way it's cut. These big sleeves. When you see these big sleeves on things, they're often reminiscent of robes of the Ming Dynasty, which had big sleeves. Qing robes tend to be much more slender, so it has a little bit of that look to it. But this is obviously a late Qing dragon robe. It still has the original ties. And again, as with all the robes he's had lately, they're in beautiful shape. You can see this one had been hung. It looks like it had been hanging somewhere by this way this crease is, nice and straight. It's just my guess. And there it is. But the condition of the silk is just exceptional on this. Look at the ties. They look practically brand new, and this isn't a new robe. And it brought $2,425. Okay, there you go. And this, the Ming bronze of court maiden, sort of done in the Tang style, and she's carrying what looks like maybe an incense burner, but very nice gilt bronze. And she's got these box hats that they were popular early Chinese culture. And Hans, our friend Freak over in the Netherlands, had this. And it did very well. It brought $3,050. Okay, he had several good things up last week. We do feature him whenever he has something. He has a good eye. And this was one of my favorite things last week. I really like this. This is a late 18th, early 19th century kettle on stand, obviously, based on an English silver form. Very, very classic European shape for that period, with this wonderful big sort of stirrup handle going over the top and this turned finial, but wonderfully decorated. And by all indications, these enamel, all of you know, if you've handled a lot of enamels, you know how susceptible they are to damage. They're really easy to damage. You bump one and you put a dent in these things because the metal was so thin. And this one was in just excellent condition. And it appears to have its original bamboo insulator handle on top. Just a great thing. And it doesn't look like anybody put a burner under here very often to keep things hot. That may be why it's in such good shape. There's a better picture of it. The brightly colored famille rose of decoration and citron fingers and all that. And it brought $2,716. Well worth it, I think. Okay. And then we're going to slip over here. This was the big bronze that sold at Christie's this week. It brought $3.8 million. And we'll take a look at that. A beautiful Nepalese bronze. And we'll take a look also in a video next week at the Sotheby's sale, which had some great things in it. One of my favorites was this bronze, this great Western Zhao bronze. It brought $732,000 against an high estimate of $250,000, and it's just because it's so terrific. The decoration on it is excellent. The patina is excellent. A lot of good things going for it. And we're also going to touch on these folks again. Eden Galleries in Marietta, Georgia's got another one of their auctions coming up. And some of the descriptions are pretty hilarious, including they apparently have found a hoard of Zumdi bowls, because here's a extremely rare brush washer that you sell for, upwards of 7 figures. They've got one they're willing to let go for $400 apparently. We can talk about that. And last, we did do, let's see, where's that page? Right there. On the plcombs.com website, we did a blog, and we put together a video on a really nice Wan Li box that we had recently that we were able to get the full provenance on. We found the discharge papers for the sailor that bought it in Hong Kong in 1860. We have a picture of the ship. We've got all kinds of information about him, and it's a pretty good thing, and we did a video. All right, so take a look at that when you have a chance. And that's about it. If you haven't subscribed yet to us here, please do. As our regular people know, we do at least one video a week. Sometimes we do a couple. And we keep our eye on Sotheby's and Christie's, and we try to be as informative as we can. And if you don't get the Bidamount.com newsletter sent to you each week to hear about things like that bronze that went through the cracks for nothing, come over here to Bidamount.com under the newsletter. Bidamount Weekly Catalog and Newsletter, and sign up, all right? And it's free. It doesn't cost anything. Just give us your email address. We'll send it out to you. We don't rent email addresses either. All right. So that's it. Have a great weekend, everybody, and see you all next week. All right, and have a good weekend. If you're going to auctions, be careful out there. Hope you find something great. All right, bye-bye.